Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Wednesdays with Wa. Okay, so practice ko pa yun para di ako mapahiya like the last time. Wednesdays with Wa. Wednesdays with Wa. Which Henry was supposed to edit out. Ahem. Okay. For this episode, I'm going to do a list of literary works that have touched my life. And initially, I was a little bit iffy on doing this because although I did consider myself a wide reader when I was younger, I came to realize later on in life that I didn't really read much of the classics. Like, for example, I have never read anything of Salinger's. And hindi kami ganun ka-close ni Poe. Like, it's only very recently I have bought an actual book of his. And the most I have read is, I'm not done with one story in the book, with one story in the collection. Tapos the most I've read is maybe 2 or 3 stories of his when I was in high school, which was required reading. So for someone who supposedly really enjoys reading, it's like, girl, up your game. Yeah, but anyway, so you have to bear in mind that this is a little bit personal to me, in the sense that it's a list of the things that I find important to me, and it's by far not the best list or not the list you are looking for if you are looking for like the best books ever. It's not that. Okay, so we are starting off with something I have come across very, very recently. It was lent to me by one of my closest friends, si Nico, who's also part of Words Anonymous. You can follow him on Facebook. His username is Nikolai Maverick. And he's a very, very talented graphic artist. He's very good. Okay. So anyway, Nico lent me this. It's called Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. And it's a collection of short stories, and it's fashioned as a children's storybook. So the art is not particularly gruesome, it's not particularly raw, it's not particularly scary actually. But the thing about this is that I feel like the words are so well curated, and then you put them into the illustrations, and the words are creepy enough in itself, but because the words plus the illustrations are so, like, you don't really expect things like that to come together. Because of that, there's like a disconnect in your head, which adds to the creepy factor. Na parang, you wouldn't really expect that, yun nga, together. And it adds to the heebie-jeebiness of it, I guess. I will show you the first page of my favorite story. This is what it's called. It's called A Lady's Hands Are Cold. Do you want to see the art? Can I do that? Can I show art on ano? Sige. Fine. There was a girl and there was a man. And you think it's very chill, but it's kind of haunting in a small way. In a not particularly overtly scary way. And that's what I really appreciated about it also. Okay, so for the next book, I will share with you. I lost my copy of this. I read it, I think, when I was maybe 11. I was very, very young. It's called Jewel by Brett Lott. And basically, it chronicles the story of a family. Jewel gives birth to her last child, Brenda Kay. And the thing with Brenda Kay is that she's diagnosed with Down syndrome. And the reason why this is important to me is because by profession, I'm a licensed physical therapist. I got to spend so much time with children with Down syndrome, children with cerebral palsy. I got to hang out and talk to their parents, their siblings, and I feel like Jewel actually sums that up pretty well. Na I do realize that not a lot of people can like get to hang out with families like that, with experiences like that. And the book raises awareness on that a lot. Also, personally, I don't know a lot of books kasi tackling the same themes. So, to have read something like this when I was younger, I feel gave me more an appreciation for the things I came to experience when I was older and I was finishing college and I was getting to handle patients and families and things. And it's super cheesy to say and it's super cliche, but it kind of gives you an appreciation on life then, on how we tend to take so much things for granted. And siguro the thing most striking to me now is how Filipinos are as a family din, na parang how much love we have for each other, how much effort holds us together as a unit. Na parang, I once treated this kid and basically ang primary caregiver niya, or the person who was most enthusiastic during our sessions, who was super game in helping me, was the older brother, who was around 8 at the time. And wala lang, that kind of dedication to your little sister, parang it's beautiful, it's weird, it's okay, so there's also that. There is Jewel by Brett Lott. The next book I will share with you, I also don't have a copy of this anymore, I also read this when I was very young, is called Hangover Soup by Louise Red. This is more or less a love story that goes beyond the married life. It's a story of Faith and Jay, and Faith is telling the story, and it starts with something along the lines of, I met Jay in college, where it's hard to tell who's a true alcoholic and who's not. So basically it revolves around that. Jay is an alcoholic, and for the longest time, Faith like has an internal battle na parang, oh, maybe he doesn't mean to do this, he doesn't mean to drink like blah 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 bottles a night, he doesn't mean to fall asleep drunk before we can even get to the, you know, funky stuff. It's also a pretty good read. It says a lot about love, I think, and also like it has a good take on the whole domestic issue and on your outlook on life too. So yeah, anyway, okay, there's that. We have done 3 books so far. The next thing I will share with you is something called, okay, so it's a little bit unfair for me because it's something written by Neil Gaiman, and parang my whole point in doing this video was to kind of give the less known books a parang thrust forward na, oh hey, you guys might wanna see this, it's pretty cool. And because Gaiman is already a big name now in the literary industry, it's like medyo unfair for me to include him now. But so the book is called Smoke and Mirrors. It's a collection of short stories, and it's funny because my favorite short story in this is actually part of the introduction. If you're not the kind of person who reads introductions, I wasn't either, but I feel like by the time I got this book, I was already in love with him. And so I was thinking that I have to like savor every word and all that. So yeah, I read through it, and it's like notes from the author's notebook, parang ganun. And the short story is called The Wedding Present. And at the end of the story, there's like a moral dilemma presented. Na parang, I thought about this long and hard, and this is something I brought up then to a lot of my closest friends, to a lot of the interesting, cool people I'd meet. Na parang, I tell them the story, I'd bring up the question. And it was my best friend recently, I think, who brought it up na she said na, okay, sis, I think this is one of the stories where it's actually clear what the right answer is. But I feel like Gaiman said it enough din kasi na parang he put you in the pool. You are immersed in the situation. And because of that, it's a lot harder to see things with a level head. And it's a lot harder to make the right calls suddenly. So like, good and bad, right and wrong become very blurry. And that's what's really interesting about this, I think. It doesn't state the question outright, pero it compels the reader compelled me to think about it a little bit more. For the next book, it's something from... It's also unfair to include something by this writer because he's already a big name in the industry also. But this is a short story collection also. It's Make Something Up, Stories You Can't Unread by Chuck Palahniuk. And I am very wary with how I say his last name because when I first read him, I read it as like Palahniuk. No, it's Palahniuk. Paula and Nick. Palahniuk. Okay, so anyway, the first thing I read of Palahniuk's kasi was Choke. And I think there's a movie out about it now. But the thing that I appreciated most about him was that he was very gruesome. He was very vivid. He was very raw. Unapologetically so. So that's the striking thing about this. And I would want to share 2 stories from this book. The first one is called Zombies. And the reason why I like it is I think it's so differently... It's so not him. Na parang it's a not necessarily a far cry, pero something along those lines of something he'd usually write, from something he'd usually write. Medyo baliw din yung logic initially, but I think we all get to a point in our lives where you kind of see where they're coming from na, yeah, ignorance is bliss, or something along those lines. And the next story, so that one was called Zombies. The next one that I like from the same book is called Cannibal. And I think I had to read this particular story twice. It was a little bit difficult for me, baka slow lang ako, pero it was a little bit difficult for me to get it, like to actually understand exactly what he was trying to say. And so I kind of feel like it's like a puzzle. Na you, and that's the fun in it. It takes a while for you to actually get the gist of the storytelling mismo. Parang, this is what he's actually saying. That's pretty scary. So yeah, it's very fun to read. Okay. And at this point, I have, okay, recently, I had a friend ask me na parang, what is your favorite book? And as someone who writes, I feel a little bit embarrassed that I actually have an answer to this. I don't have a copy of the book anymore. It's The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. I read this also when I was very young, and then I read it again when I was a little bit older. And it's, paano ba? It's set in India, and the thing is that it gives you such a familiarity with the place. It sets up its environment pretty well. Parang I feel like it covers all the bases. And it's about a family. It tells the story of a family, of a pair of twins, Esta and Rahel. And quote unquote, it lays down the love laws of who should be loved, of how and how much. And it's actually a pretty melancholic read, but at the same time, I think it's impossible to walk away from the book without it having touched you. Despite how heavy the themes are, so it tackles a lot on the caste system, on the touchables and the untouchables, a lot of politics, a lot of family issues. It's impossible to walk away from this without it having touched you, but in a good way, without giving you like a more peaceful, weirdly happy perspective on life, despite and probably because of all the poop it throws your way. Yeah, that is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. And I know I said we were going to be talking about literary works, but I have to throw in a wild card, and you know I have been waiting all this time to throw in this wild card. I have to include this game. It's called Dragon Age, and I know, Kat, it's a game, it's a video game. You're not supposed to include video games in literary works, dude. If you were the kind of gamer, so there are different kinds of gamers, and unfortunately, I am the kind who goes through all the lore in it. Like, you pick up a scroll, you read the entire thing. You pick up a tome, you read the entire thing. It's not gonna take that long. Dragon Age has so much lore in it. It's so invested in the world it creates that it's something you can immerse yourself into din. Na parang, it's not just a background. It has so much insight on religion, on politics. I keep trying, maybe it's unfair, I'm so obviously biased, pero I keep trying to think of another game that tackles so many issues the same way Dragon Age does, and I'm coming up empty. So, and it has good poetry in it, and it's so eerie. There are parts in it na parang it's so eerie. The soundtrack, the visual art, the literature in it na parang, I can't believe this is a game. The whole thing is an experience. It's invested in the lore. It's almost like an anime, I think, for me. Okay, bad example. Almost like a novel. It's literally a whole world, an entire world with so much lore, so much history, so much poetry, so much literature na it's hard not to consider it a literary work of art. Okay, enough fangirling about Dragon Age. That is my list of the literary works to have touched my life so far. Again, it is a far cry from a list of the best things to read. But they're pretty interesting in itself, at least for me. And if you are so inclined, you might want to give them a try as well. So yun. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Wednesdays with Wa. You can follow us on Facebook. It's Words Anonymous. You can follow us on Twitter. It's Words AnonPH. If you need us, you can send us a message at wordsanonymousph@gmail.com. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out. See you next week.